It's just brutal. Bracing for a St. Louis summer.
It's really hot.
It's like hard to breathe.
First Alert 4 is making sure you're ready.
I feel like I'm swimming while I'm walking.
As the thermometer creeps up,
It got very humid very quickly. Can't go outside without just dripping in sweat.
But it is hot out here.
temperatures are ticking up and schools are winding down. And we're about 10 days away from the start of the meteorological summer. Thank you for joining us. I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton in beautiful Tower Grove Park, the second largest park in St. Louis, next to Forest Park. And this is the summer weather outlook. As pools prep to open for the season, the First Alert weather team has been working to get you ready, tracking everything from cicada invasion to air quality questions and local heat trends. And those rising temperatures can have an impact on your health. That's why experts have introduced a new tool to gauge heat-related risks. First Alert 4 meteorologist Matt Chambers gives us a look.
Yet another First Alert weather day.
It's a common sight during the turbulent times of spring.
A higher threat level 4 has been added over the southern third or so of the viewing area.
Our First Alert weather team breaking down the threat of severe thunderstorms using a color-coded numerical scale. So why not apply that same kind of simple, straightforward messaging when it comes to the hazards of heat during the sizzling summer months?
It's like hard to breathe. I'm losing a bunch of water, so I have to drink a lot of water.
Do we take the risk of extreme heat events seriously enough, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, heat is the #1 weather-related killer.
Kevin Deitch is the warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service office here in the St. Louis area. And he's exactly right. In a typical year, extreme heat kills more people in the U.S. than hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes combined.
It's something that should be taken as seriously as a tornado outbreak, a big flash flood event.
So, with the intent of shining a white-hot spotlight on extreme heat, the National Weather Service, in collaboration with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, has created a new experimental product called Heat Risk.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple scale from 0 to 4. So 0 being, no real heat risk on a given day. 1 kind of being a low-end risk, and then all the way up to 4, which is kind of an extreme risk. And it's based off of an area's climatological temperatures, but then also how those temperatures relate to the CDC data with the fatalities and injuries due to heat-related illnesses and deaths. And it also takes into account longevity and how rare certain temperatures are at a given time of year.
But I want to give you the real-world experience. This is what it's like to interact with this heat risk product from the National Weather Service. You can find it online. It's an interactive map of the entire United States. Let's start right here in the Gateway City. Obviously, we haven't really entered heat wave season so far, but you'll notice as soon as I tap the city, a 7-day forecast pops up. Most of our days over the next 7 are labeled green or 0 with little to no risk from expected heat. So let's head to a spicier part of the country, down towards Miami, Florida. Actually, the day we're recording this is a code 4 or magenta day with extreme risk for all populations due to long duration heat with little to no relief expected overnight.
The First Alert 4 weather team can also import this data into our own weather graphics. So there's a good chance you'll be seeing heat risk information on the air this summer.
Another tool in the toolbox. That's always a good thing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can never have too many of them.
I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers, First Alert 4.
If you need help keeping your home cool this summer, there are resources for you. Cool Down St. Louis offers help keeping your air conditioning running. And if you need help with your utility bill, go to cooldowntlouis.org.
When the temperatures in especially old homes that are brick, you can sweat to death. You can bake to death. It's just horrible. So what we're trying to do at Cool Down St. Louis is through our hotline and through neighbors, let us know. Because thanks to Ameren and others, we're able to get those air conditioners and able to get in certain areas having the fire departments to help us install those to save a life.
And if you're able to donate to help your neighbors stay cool this summer, you can do so on cooldowntlouis.org. St. Louis averages 47 days per year at 90 degrees or hotter. But 90 degrees feels very different depending on the humidity. First Alert 4 meteorologist Leah Hill explores the sweltering relationship between humidity and heat.
What comes to mind when you think about summer in St. Louis? Probably baseball, the Muni, swimming, and frozen custard are on the list. What's topping the list?
It's really, really humid.
It's not just the heat or just the humidity. It's actually both.
I go away in July just to get the heck out of Dodge. I don't have to deal with the July humidity.
It's thick, it's hot, sweat a lot. It's tough when you wake up, you get in your truck like 5 in the morning, and it's already 80 degrees and it feels like 90.
The heat index is actually a pretty complicated equation that takes into account things like core body temperature, clothing cover, radiation on our skin, wind speeds, and multiple other variables. From that calculation, we get the heat index, which is a measure of how the air feels when you're outside.
It's like wearing a turtleneck mohair sweater in a steam room.
Thankfully, meteorologists don't have to calculate the heat index by hand. The National Weather Service provides a chart for easy use. For example, a 90-degree temperature with a 40% humidity will only produce a heat index of 91 degrees. But that same temperature with 70% humidity puts us in the dangerous category with the heat index in the triple digits.
Here's the kicker. The heat index is calculated for shady areas. Step into the sun, and it can add as much as 15 degrees onto the heat index.
Heat and humidity make it hard for the body to regulate its own temperature.
Similar to an engine, when the body overheats, it doesn't operate as efficiently. Sweating, a cooling process, isn't as effective in high humidity.
As time goes on within the same day, or if you're outside day after day, those heat effects can add up on each other.
The cumulative impacts of heat and humidity put you at greater risk of heat exhaustion and stroke. Watch for the early warning signs.
Dizziness, lightheadedness, nausea would be common. Overall, just feeling fatigued and weak.
Heat stroke is a medical emergency.
That's when we have the body tends to have some organ dysfunction, so that might be when someone passes out.
Those working outside are most susceptible to heat-related illnesses. When the heat index is in the triple digits, it's recommended you drink at least 4 cups of water every hour and take at least a 10-minute break every hour, preferably inside or in the shade. The first few hot days of the summer are always the hardest on our bodies. In St. Louis, I'm Leah Hill.
Temperature and weather patterns can impact air quality. First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett details the changes and how it affects the air that you breathe.
In the St. Louis metro area, there's an air pollution problem.
And according to the Lancet Commission on Pollution and Health, air pollution leads to 6.5 million deaths globally every year.
There are 2 big parts of air pollution that are a problem. Ozone air pollution and particulate matter.
Ozone pollution is a lung irritant.
It's formed when sunlight and heat and very light winds combine with emissions.
Ozone pollution is seasonal. Those really hot, sunny, still days typically occur May through September.
We don't have as much of a problem with particulate matter here as we do with ozone. Particulate matter is very, very fine dust.
We do see occasional spikes, however, when winds bring in smoke from a distant wildfire or when fireworks are set off around the 4th of July holiday. Now, if you are a healthy person, you should know that bad air quality days affect you too.
You may experience a temporary system like irritation of your throat or eyes, also some coughing, some shortness of breath.
But if you have heart or lung disease, symptoms can be much more severe.
Higher exposure is associated with harmful events like asthma attacks, asthma hospitalizations, respiratory hospitalizations, and also cardiovascular events such as heart attacks, arrhythmias.
So how can you protect yourself on a bad air quality day?
The simple thing to do is try to avoid the exposure, stay indoors, not go outdoors. If you have to go outdoors on those days, try to limit the time or intensity of the exposures.
You could also consider wearing a mask. To help reduce air pollution, consider reducing tailpipe emissions.
Use transit or carpool or vanpool if you can, or ride your bike if it's not a bad air day, or walk if you can walk somewhere. You can also flex time or telecommute because that takes cars off the road. Buying local is a really good way to reduce the air quality impact of what you buy.
And that can help everyone breathe easier this summer. Kristen Cornett, First Alert 4.
Summer is a busy time in St. Louis, so here's a list of just some of the great events kicking off soon. On May 29th, the Whitaker Music Festival kicks off at the Missouri Botanical Garden. Also on the 29th, the Shakespeare Festival begins in Forest Park with As You Like It. On June 17th, the Muni season starts with Les Miserables. Other big events coming up include the Grand Pride Parade, Taste of St. Louis, the Festival of Nations, and the Japanese Festival at the Garden. Coming up next on this special edition of First Alert 4 at 6:30, it's a cicada invasion. Some hate them, some want to eat them, and some are using them as an inspiration. How St. Louis is handling the emergence. And still ahead on the Summer Weather Outlook, what we're predicting broken down month by month. Before we head to break, we have some weather trivia for you to ponder. What is evapotranspiration? Is it how storm cells merge, how corn sweats, how clouds create rain, or maybe how hail melts? The answer next. Before the break, we asked you some weather trivia. What is evapotranspiration? The answer? Evapotranspiration is how corn sweats and describes how moisture from both the soil and through the plant leaves evaporates into the air. And at peak during the summer, corn can sweat 4,000 gallons of water into the air per acre per day. 2024, the summer of the so-called cicada apocalypse. You've likely seen their exoskeletons pop up outside. For the first time in about 250 years, there are two broods of cicadas emerging. That's two different groups of periodical cicadas coming out at once around the U.S. And while it may be overwhelming, they're harmless. But there are some quirks. A new study shows cicadas jet out fluids. You may notice it coming from the trees.
That is actually them excreting honeydew that they are, they're drinking the sap out of the tree, pushing it all the way through, excreting it at the other end.
Experts say the bugs can shoot that liquid out at a rate of 10 feet per second. And while you may be grossed out by cicadas, some see them as a delicacy.
They can be sauteed, deep fried, baked, they can be put on pizza, they can be worked into ice cream. They taste a surprising amount like shrimp because shrimp and crabs and their relatives are also the insects' relatives. They're like cousins to each other.
This Friday, you can try the crispy critters. The bug experts at the Butterfly House will be cooking up cicada-centric dishes for you to try. There are 2 demonstrations at Foss Park starting at 1 p.m. Friday. But when it comes to eating cicadas, humans are not the only ones giving them a try. This original song by former KMOV producer Steve Perrin is getting some attention. It's portraying the fate of the cicadas as they make their way above ground, and you can find the song Unlucky on YouTube. And could the cicada apocalypse impact your summer planting? An answer from the experts is next. And are St. Louis summers getting hotter? We're talking with climate experts about the changes they've been tracking and if you can expect to sweat more in the future. Before the break, the record for the hottest St. Louis temperature is 115. But summer nights can be awfully warm. So what is the record for the warmest low temperature in St. Louis? The answer, still ahead. Now to answer our last weather trivia question. We asked, what is the record for the warmest low temperature in St. Louis? The answer, 86, set twice, once in 2012 and once in 1901. And just last year, we had the third warmest low with 85 degrees on July 28th. As we all know, St. Louis summers bring the heat, but are they actually getting hotter? First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart gives us a look at the trends.
There's hot, summer hot, and then there's St. Louis summer hot. And just like your mama told you, it's not the heat, it's the humidity. And as usual, mama was right. Summer heat and humidity are on the rise in St. Louis. But don't take my word for it.
Summers are getting hotter in St. Louis. Daytime temperatures, nighttime temperatures, extreme temperatures, days are getting hotter in St. Louis in the summer.
Jennifer Brady of Climate Central says the data doesn't lie.
Over the last 50 years or so we want to take at least a longer period to find an actual trend, because we all know any one summer can be hotter or colder. But over the last 50 years, the average summer temperature has increased over 3 degrees in St. Louis. Even more, almost 5 degrees, your average minimum temperature, which is what we usually think of as your nighttime temperature. So the temperature that's happening when you're asleep is going up even more. And those days above normal, kind of the days above average, are up about 20 days. So, close to a month of more days above average in the summer.
2023 was the warmest year on record for our planet. Remember the heat wave last year in August in St. Louis? It peaked on Friday the 25th with a record high of 104 and a heat index of 116. In fact, 7 of the 10 hottest years on record in St. Louis have occurred since 2000. And I'll bet you didn't know that heat kills more people in the United States than any other climate-related hazard. It's called the silent killer. A summer heat wave in 2012 killed 18 people in St. Louis. So no matter what your thoughts are on climate change, the fact is St. Louis summers are getting hotter. Kent Earhart, First Alert 4.
If you're getting ready to do some summer planting, the cicadas could put a damper on your plans. Experts at the Missouri Botanical Gardens tell us that young trees could be at risk. Experts also say now is the time to plant annuals. It's a great time to sow seeds such as corn, beans, cucumbers, and squash. Up next, the summer weather outlook. We'll break down month by month what we're expecting for the upcoming season. And before the break, more weather trivia. We're going to get a little sciencey here. The average kinetic energy of the air is called what? Heat, temperature, or dew point? The answer after the break. Welcome back. Before the break, we asked our final weather trivia question. The average kinetic energy of the air is called what? The answer, temperature. While heat is the transfer of energy, temperature is the measurement of energy. So a thermometer is measuring the average energy of the air molecules. Now for the summer outlook. The summer months of June, July, and August in St. Louis are not just about heat and humidity. We can get major flooding, and we still have to be on guard for severe storms. And after a very busy spring with 27 tornadoes in our coverage area, more than the yearly average of 17, the severe threat doesn't completely go away for summer. However, the historical threat for tornadoes does trend downward, especially in July and August. So we won't be as busy with severe weather, but we still need to remain alert. However, we will start to turn our attention to the #1 reason for weather-related fatalities in the U.S., the heat. In fact, just last year, according to NOAA, the extreme heat was the cause of 207 deaths in the United States, compared to 86 from tornadoes. So what will this summer hold? Well, June last year, we didn't touch 100 degrees, and I expect that again. For June this summer, I do expect consistent heat, and mostly above normal days. We averaged 10 days in June of 90 or hotter, and I expect more than that this year, as the month ends warmer than normal. And while June is our 3rd wettest month, and I do expect some typical summer downpours, I anticipate June to end with slightly below normal rainfall. July is typically our hottest month, with an average high of 90 degrees. And last July, we had 2 days at 100, then 101. But I would expect a couple more days touching 100 degrees. For July, I anticipate a warmer than normal month. That would be our hottest month of the summer and the year. I don't expect much severe weather, and I anticipate below normal rainfall. That doesn't mean it will be dry. Even below normal by an inch would still mean about 3 inches of rain for the month. August can make it start to feel like summer will just never end. We average 1 to 2 days at 100 or hotter, and last year we saw 4 days in August, 100 to 104. Well, this August, I don't expect to hit 100, but I do expect a warmer than normal month. It won't be as consistently hot as June and July, as we get some breaks at times. And rainfall, like July, will trend below normal. Thank you for joining us for this summer weather outlook. Be sure to stay connected with the First Alert Weather Team. Download our weather app to get updates for your area sent straight to your phone. We'll hope to see you at 10.
Summer Weather Outlook, presented by I&E Construction.